I mean, I think the concern for us, and we've been here a week now, working very closely with our partners at the Libyan Red Crescent. And I think, it's fair to say we're able to react to primarily the medical needs. We were concerned about, what would the effect of the wounded and how could they cope. It looks as though, that is fairly well under control. But of course, the thing that really worries us is, how is the situation going to develop? And it's that contingency planning which is important for us.
And today you did make an appeal for about $26 million. Why do you need those? Where would they go?
Well, again, how's this thing going to go? I mean, is this going to escalate? Is there going to be, fighting? Is it going to develop into a conflict? And if it is, I mean, the responsibility that we have at the ICRC is to ensure that we're ready for that, and that we, with our partners at the Libyan Red Crescent, are ready to go and to respond. And I mean, it's an estimation, but I think it's an estimation which is fairly realistic when you start to see some of the numbers of people moving around here,
Do you have any information about also, we talk about those who are going to the borders of Egypt and Tunisia, but there's also, I hear, a lot of internally displaced people at the moment. Do you have any idea how big is that?
Look, it was a particular issue when we arrived about a week ago, and we toured some of those areas where they were holding, if you like, these migrant workers, who've been left behind, and quite often in really quite unsettling conditions. We thought that it might have been an issue, but again, there's this remarkable sense of solidarity here, the nature of sort of volunteer reaction, businessmen who were paying for food for these migrant workers here. So, there is this solidarity which is, I think, helping to reduce the potential humanitarian impact. But again, what's going to happen in the immediate future? And that's terribly difficult to know.
Okay, one of the mandates is also to have access to prisoners, and there are prisoners on both sides of the conflict at the moment. Have you had any access, or do you have any idea of the scope of people being imprisoned?
Obviously the ICRC will take contact with all parties to a crisis, to a conflict, if we get there. And yes, we have had these contacts, and with the administration based here in Benghazi, they're completely open and said yes, of course. The ICRC can exercise its mandate in favor of persons that they would have detained. So I mean, that's very positive, because we're talking about people who are held away in detention with no contact with their families, and we just want to make sure that the conditions of detention are correct.
And are they correct?
Well, we don't know at this stage of the game, and it's really not our position to be able to discuss this publicly. But rest assured that if they aren't, we will be having a dialogue with the detaining authorities, that is, those people who are holding them, to ensure that it improves. And there is nothing which leads us to suspect that the authority, the administration here, would, if you like, deny us that principle.
Okay. And the country has been basically at a standstill for the past 2 weeks or more. How long do you think they can sustain it? You say it's been going okay because of social solidarity, but how long can that be sustainable?
I think, and you will know this as well as I, but in any conflict, I mean, once your social welfare structures break down, once an economy starts fracturing, then it becomes extremely difficult for people to earn a living, to be able to provide for themselves, to receive the basic, health needs and education, etc. And clearly, if this crisis were to continue, that would become, a real issue. And that's where I think the money that we've appealed for today, this $26 million US, is really, it's an estimate of, if this continues, we will need at least that amount of money. And bearing in mind our appeal is for 3 months, that's what we would consider for 3 months would help us to do our work. Beyond that, one can't really speculate.
And one last question, those 26 millions would go into which priorities?
The priorities would probably be health, food if it were necessary, although I think there's quite a mobilization, generally within the UN and other actors. And of course, operating here is extremely difficult and very expensive, and it's those resupply lines, getting people in here, the telecommunications. I mean, I think it's a striking fact that this is the first time that most humanitarian organizations have set foot in this country. It's the first time that the population would have seen a crisis like this. It takes a lot to be able to get yourself into a position to be able to react to that. And you know, that's where we think we've justified our appeal.
Thank you very much,
Pleasure.
Simon. So definitely international organizations are trying to help as much as they can here at the moment, warning that a humanitarian situation may be well unfolding if the situation continues like this, and also warning that this is a country that actually needs a lot of infrastructure support because it has very little of it.
Hoda, many thanks indeed. Hoda Abdul Hamid reporting live there from Benghazi. I just want to bring you up to speed with some reports that we're getting at the moment from the capital, Tripoli. Reuters, the Newswire service, reporting that pickup trucks carrying Libyan security forces have entered an area in Tripoli where protests are taking place. Agence France Presse are saying that Gaddafi loyalists scuffled with anti-regime demonstrators in Tripoli. And then back to Reuters again. Gunshots have been heard in a district of Tripoli on Friday where several hundred opponents of Muammar Gaddafi had been demanding an end to his rule. Apparently, they've been firing tear gas. I heard shooting. Reuters quoting a witness. People are scattering. The media has been put under a great deal of restriction in Tripoli today. In fact, they've been held in one of the main media hotels. We have a reporter on the ground in Tripoli who's not with the main media contingent. We're working to verify those reports that we're getting from Tripoli, but clearly because of the fact that several news agencies are reporting that gunshots have been heard, clearly something is happening in Tripoli, and we'll bring you the latest as and when we verified it here at Al Jazeera. In the meantime, let's move on now to Egypt, where protests have been continuing today. Its new Prime Minister, Essam Sharaf, has been addressing the crowd you see there now in Tahrir Square, and he stood alongside a senior member of the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, the Prime Minister told the crowd that he'll work hard to realize their demands, and if he can't, he says he'll step down.
You have achieved a great task, and the bigger objective is to rebuild Egypt. I'm praying to God that I would see Egypt a free country where opinion is not captured in prison cells, and see that the security of the citizen is a top priority. I pray to God that may Almighty God has honored me with more than I have asked for, and I pray to God to help me be able to deserve this position. Please raise your head up. You are an Egyptian.
Live now to Cairo, our correspondent Ayman Mohyeldin. Ayman, we can't underplay the significance of the Prime Minister's appearance in Tahrir Square, nor who he was standing next to.
Absolutely. You know, it was almost a few weeks ago, if you will, that very scene would have been unimaginable for a senior official in the Egyptian government, particularly one in public office, standing side by side with senior members of the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, when you put it in the context of what has happened over the last several weeks in Egypt, it is what everyone is trying to demand and what people here are hoping